UConn loses to Tennessee 80-76 in Knoxville. First win by Tennessee since 2007 and the first win of the Kim Caldwell era. You're locked on.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, I want to take a moment to say how thankful we are for all of you. We appreciate your support, and we're proud to say we're the only daily podcast covering the UConn women's and men's basketball programs, the hoops capital of the world, and we're thrilled to bring you the coverage you deserve. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right. Hey, also, I didn't bring this up. I know we're live, and I kind of made a little gaffe there, but you guys know we donate 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project. I love Kevin Solomon and all of them. They've literally, one of the biggest reasons why I did it is because I heard that they help out the Meriden Boys and Girls Club, and that's where I got my start, kind of going and playing basketball and just kind of like having a place to go. And so just super cool of them, big brothers, big sisters, the whole deal. So, all right, UConn falls to Tennessee. Huge win for Tennessee, but major questions loom for UConn. I sigh because, well, first off, I'm tired, and it's been a long day. I'm traveling tomorrow, and what I was hoping for was tonight I could sit back and watch UConn play a complete game, but I'll go back to something that I talked to Maria Conlon about this afternoon, which is she did say, and I agree with this because Bella, who's waiting backstage, and we'll get her in here in a second, have been talking about this for a few weeks now, which is, I don't know if they're prepared for these games. What happens in the Big East, unfortunately, when they play a Villanova, when they play a DePaul, when they play even the Creighton, the Creighton game was kind of gave you some clues. They didn't look prepared in that game, but because Creighton's not as talented and as athletic as Tennessee, they could get by, right? If UConn wants to compete for a national championship, games like this can't slip away. They had stretches where they pushed and got out to a 7 or 8 point lead, and they just kind of let people back in. They missed layups, tons of open shots. They had, Tennessee had a 76-74 lead late, but couldn't really get a great shot. So they're forced to shoot a corner three with a hand in the face, and then UConn can't get a rebound. That was a huge part of this game. Couldn't get rebounds when it mattered. And part of, because I saw a lot of BS on Twitter about, this team needs to get tougher. You got to be a little more specific if you want to pass the smell test. If you know basketball, this team physically is tough enough to play against Tennessee. They lost by 2 points on the road or 4 points on the road. So it's not like they got their doors blown off and, the toughness meter was low. Mental toughness is a different story. If that's what you mean, then I'm with you. This team is not mentally tough. And how could they be? If you're playing cupcakes all year and then you sprinkle in a couple of like Grizzly Bear games, that's a tough row to hold. And I'm not making excuses. It's just the reality. Kelly Harper even said it outright at the end of the game as I was getting this set up. She said they simply wanted it more. They thought that they outworked us. That's exactly what she said. And oh, by the way, she gave birth 18 days ago to a child, to another human being. She birthed her son, and she's on the sidelines. And you don't think her team is feeding off that energy? Now, I know Gino Auriemma can't have a baby, so that's an issue, right? But that kind of toughness is what I'm talking about. The mental toughness my wife just had a baby 4 months ago. She's this type of tough. She was literally ready to go out a week later. So for me, I would have been, held up for 6 months. So the mental toughness that we're not seeing on the court for when you face a team like this that's hungry, that's on the come up, and you're kind of that team that's, the status quo, it's the kind of toughness that UConn could have used in Knoxville for sure. And it's not just all about grit. It's attention to detail. We just talked about that. Crash the boards. They had 46 to 34 a rebounding edge. They including 17 offensive rebounds for Tennessee, 17 extra touches for a possession for a team that lives off second possessions, 3-point shots, who didn't shoot the three particularly well. They just made clutch threes. You just can't let that happen, especially when you're struggling offensively. UConn's defensive rotations were slow, box outs were inconsistent, and they looked unprepared for Tennessee. It's not rocket science. Tennessee shot a lot of threes, 28 attempts, which is under their norm, which means a ton of long rebounds. Anybody that's ever played at a JV level knows that when you shoot a ton of threes, you're not going to get a ton of rebounds underneath the basket. Time and time again, Sarah Strong, Janelle Elfie, Aubrey, Paige, all got caught underneath the rim. Ball goes out deep. The guards weren't coming back to help on that, so that's their fault too. Offensive issues, in my opinion, were glaring. But I'm going to stop for a second. I'm going to get Bella in here. She's waiting patiently, and if anyone else wants to come on the show, we'll do that too. But let's get Bella in here to get her perspective before I continue to shoot my mouth off. So let's do it. What's up, Bella?
How we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, as good as I can be, I guess, after this just disappointing loss. I agree with everything you had to say. I say this at any single level, like you said. If you get out rebounded, I'd say 7-8 times out of 10 you're going to lose the game. Especially when you're playing a team that's of a similar caliber, as you, right? This isn't the DePauls of the world, the Villanovas of the world. This is, SEC, really, really good quality basketball that you're playing against. Listen, other than obviously the glaring things you said, the one good thing is that I really looked at is we outplayed Tennessee for 30 minutes out of 40 minutes of basketball. First quarter, we outscored them 19-17. Second quarter, we tied 20-20. Third quarter, we got outscored 22-15, and we outscored them in the fourth quarter by 1. We lose that game in that third quarter, and anybody who's anybody can say it. I was kind of like doing a little bit of a live sort of video segments on TikTok, saying in the third quarter, I was kind of getting ready to say, okay, I felt like they handled the pressure pretty well. Yes, they missed some shots that they really should have made, but I felt like in the first half, they handled pressure really well, especially early on. Obviously, they had some glimpses where they got a little bit tired, but I just don't know what was said in the locker room at halftime where they came out so flat. They came out like they would against, in the first quarter where, they act like they hadn't just played a full 20 minutes of basketball and technically outplayed them by 2 points. It's just disappointing. It's just a game that, again, Mark, I got cocky, and I think we both said, as a team, you don't want to look over Tennessee.
Yeah.
But it seems like they did because they were not prepared. And I think the biggest question for me now is, Mark, yes, they only lost by 4 on the road, but it was not a pretty loss. 4 points I think could have been a lot more if, a couple down the stretch. I think Aubrey Griffin had a really good end of the third quarter and great start to the fourth quarter where she gave us some minutes that kept us in the game. And same thing with Azzi, who didn't have her best night, but made a 3, I believe, in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the fourth quarter that was huge to cut it from a 7-point game to a 4-point game. So there were some glimpses, but again, I mean, I think I have to say, a really ugly loss, in my opinion, regardless of the score. And now if you go out and lose to South Carolina, we talked about potentially getting a 1 seed if we could run the table. Does this jeopardize a 2 seed for UConn if they lose badly again to South Carolina?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think 100%. There was a question by Jimmy in here, or was it Jimmy or Joe? Someone in there in the chat that said, if they lose to South Carolina, are they a 3 seed? And I said 100% yes. They missed 6 layups in the first half. They missed probably 15 to 20 open shots. Tennessee did not play great defense. Okay, they play helter skelter, but that's this system again. Don't listen to me, or go back and watch the show I did with Maria a few hours ago, where she essentially said, this press is not meant to turn you over. And if it turns you over, it's like a bonus.
Yeah.
And that's what this system is. Did you notice all the interchanging parts, like how they had 5 people in, 3 people out, all that stuff? That's meant to kind of get you off of your game. It's jump, but it's also about your mental capacity. Can you handle it? And UConn couldn't. How many times in a big game are we going to have Ashlynn Shade miss 15 open shots? I'm exaggerating, obviously, but
No, listen, there was one possession where she literally missed 4 straight
she missed everything.
Literally.
Let's go look at the. I want to look at the stat sheet because I printed it out.
Yeah, I got it up as well.
I just can't. I can't stress enough that when people rail on, I'm the first to say, I know it's not 2004 anymore, and I need Paige Bueckers to shoot more threes. But when Paige is being aggressive and getting to the hoop and kicking it out for open threes, we're not talking about contested shots. You got to make them. You just have to.
100%.
These are guards. We're not asking Janelle Elfie to shoot threes. And while I'm on her, because I know people think I'm too soft on the women, but unfortunately, guys, there's only like 6 games a year where they're challenged.
Right.
So, in every game they've been challenged this year, essentially they've lost. So I can't pull punches. Jana's been not good.
No.
And if it's injuries, cool. If someone wants to tell me later from UConn and hey, Jana's really been dealing with stuff. Ice was out today, so she played more minutes, whatever. Aubrey Griffin, if she was healthy, would be a huge addition. But you can tell she's great, but she just doesn't have that lift anymore.
No.
You just tell. She was phenomenal, but if she ever gets into contact situations, she can't deal with that contact, and that's an issue. It just is.
Yeah. All right. I mean, you can't – obviously, she's a great player, but – and again, injuries are injuries, and the way they set you back mentally, I think, is the biggest thing. You cannot play timid and things like that. And listen, I get it. She's trying her best, but it definitely takes an edge off. I thought Aubrey was going to come back and give us exactly what we needed to. And I think today was by far her best game, but it just wasn't enough. I think Jana definitely needed to be more productive. And the same thing you said with Ashlynn Shade, I think it is absolutely right. I get it. She's only a sophomore, but she was the Big East freshman of the year. Okay. And you come to UConn, you know exactly what's going to be expected of you. And that's the same thing. And you know what? We talk about being soft on these players. I get it. Paige was under a lot more pressure defensively tonight, but 14 points from her. I mean, listen, we look back and we talk about, Caitlin Clark's impact, or even former UConn greats, Brianna Stewart and Diana Taurasi and Rebecca Lobo, and, these really good quality basketball players that we consider UConn greats. They wouldn't have probably had the night Paige had tonight. And again, I get it. I get it that, sometimes it's just not your night. But really, in all of the games that they've played thus far, I feel like they've had the opportunity to look down the bench and look at, who's supposed to be your alpha, like we talked about on Monday's episode. And she just hasn't really had it, in my opinion, in these bigger games. And I mean, I get it. It's Tennessee, and sometimes, maybe they were looking towards South Carolina and just kind of missed this one and just miscoached and just weren't mentally prepared. But I don't know. I think they just, beside the only 2 players, in my opinion, that had a night that I said, you know what, I'm happy with their performance, was honestly Caitlin Chen, because yes, she only had 4 points, but her impact was really good. She really, I liked her breaking the press and things like that. I think Keika Arnold played phenomenal tonight. Another great job of neutralizing the press. Really good in transition. And then, yes, Aubrey obviously, isn't the same, but I think she did have a good night. That 9 points, her season high, and kept us in the game when we needed it. But the other players when just didn't have it. And again, Sarah Strong still had 18 points. And as a freshman, I'll tip my cap to Strong, but I just think we could have expected a lot more out of Paige. I don't know. I don't know. That's what I feel.
Bella, you're there. No feelings are wrong right now. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to do a quick ad, and then we'll come back. And if anyone in the chat wants to jump on, Joey Bill Bonds wants to come on, I'd love to see it on the women's show. Let me just take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. Let me get out of here because I'm terrible with the live show after this. Looking for tickets to your next big event? Whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports event, Finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache, but with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. Game Time Picks, you download the app, you download all the hard work for you, and it curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat, and I couldn't believe the value. It was an absolute steal. The seat view feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat will look like in the venue, and it's so reassuring. So what's the best part? You're covered with Game Time's lowest price guaranteed, and if you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund you 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time. With easy cancellation options, if something comes up, no problem. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we're back on Locked On UConn. Let's get Joey in here. Listen, we do this on the men's show a lot. Sometimes we get some people that want to jump on. Sometimes we don't. And Joey's been always a big guy to come on the men's side. Let's hear what you got. What's up, Joey?
Hey, what's up? First off, RFU Pat Summit, but hey, it just wasn't our day. We got 2 sad Huskies here on the couch.
Oh, sad Huskies.
But hey, I mean, we'll figure it out. It's long. We still got time, but just didn't go our way today. It's unfortunate.
What did you see out there? Like from your perspective, like I had a hard time. Like I was frustrated because just like the Notre Dame game, I felt like there were a lot of missed opportunities. And to me, that is to quote A Bronx Tale. I know Bella's maybe too young for that movie. Maybe she's seen it. You've seen it? Great, I love it.
Love that movie.
I'm not judging. I just want to say to quote A Bronx Tale. There's nothing worse than wasted talent. And right, and so you can probably parlay that into the talent tonight. Just missed open shots. Like it wasn't like some revolutionary defense that Tennessee played. And I wonder if some of that kind of speeding you up bothered them. Did you see that, Joey? Do you feel like that was the case, or like what did you feel?
I mean, yes, I think that definitely could contribute to it, but it was just we just didn't make our shots and take advantage of it. Like we didn't have that kill shot when we had a chance to put it away, we couldn't, or go up. It was constantly we let them stay in the game, and there was that team that like you said, we're UConn. People will always give us their best shot. And that team's been looking for a win like that all season. And also too, it's great for the rivalry for them.
I said that earlier.
Yeah. 100%. So it's just tough loss.
First loss since 2007. First loss or first win for Tennessee for a coach that has zero essentially ties to the late great Pat Summit. So because Kim Caldwell is not someone that is associated with Pat Summit, I did find out that the comment that I made to Maria, I didn't know that Kim Caldwell's offense, the kind of like run it up, like in and out, subbing and all this other stuff. It's derivative of a guy that I mentioned on the show. So when I was covering the SoCon, the Sanford Bulldogs with Bucky McMillan, the father of Bucky McMillan, who was mentioned on the show today, I guess brought that defense to Kim Caldwell's D2 school. And so she realized that like that was something that like got kids excited. And she was just like it felt like when you were playing regular basketball, like people got bored and also kind of got out of shape because you're not running a ton. And so that's why she brought this kind of defense or this offense that's kind of like run it up, shoot as many threes as possible type kind of run and gun style to Tennessee. It's definitely interesting. Like I want to get your guys' thoughts on that from a watching perspective. What did you think of that, Bill? What did you think from the perspective of watching the subbing, like 5 in, 5 out, or at least 3? Like it would happen sometimes every 2 or 3 minutes.
I mean, listen, I agree. I think, the way games are trending now, you have to find a way to keep kids engaged. And I think if you're any recruit, you'd want to come and do that and be a part of something like that. I think it kind of tries to be like a no risk it, no biscuit sort of type of kind of approach, right? I think it to me is similarly is the way they look at baseball nowadays, right? Back in the day, it was like, oh, you hit 300, that's great, that's efficient. Nowadays, you want to see home runs. Kind of same thing, back in the day with basketball, it's like, let's get these second grade, sort of like easy, layup shots. Now they figure if you make 3-pointers, you don't have to, compensate with as many layups and things like that. So I just think it's valued at this point, even if they don't shoot it incredibly efficient. They don't have to because they shoot so many, and at the end of the day, I believe they made more than UConn. I mean, they outshot UConn 46 to 40%. I just think, like, I don't know. It's truly just I don't know. It's different, and I think, like you said, UConn just wasn't necessarily prepared for that. You don't see it, and it's like when you play like an Army Navy school, right? Sometimes you have troubles against those types of teams.
Like in
Those type of
football, you're saying, right?
yeah, exactly, because you're not exposed to that. You just don't
Sure.
see that. You don't practice that. Now the other thing I want to say is too, ice going down could have been taking a little wind out of UConn's sail, just mentally thinking, okay, like now we have to really change our whole game plan. And we talked about Jana just not really figuring it out today or any of the season, but today alone, I think maybe she's thinking, okay, now I have to play an even bigger role. And when you ask players to play, beyond their means, especially Jana, you can kind of consider her almost a freshman because she didn't play last year. It's tough. It's unfortunate.
Hold on, Bella.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. This came in through the chat, and I'm going to go down the line. We'll go Joey, then Bella, back to you, and then I'll give my thoughts. Can you guys discuss how much Paige seems to have regressed this year compared to freshman year? She seems to be trying too hard, getting in her own head. What do you think that's true, Joey, or do you think that's something different?
I mean, also, look, I mean, she's definitely trying to step up to fill that moment and be that player, but it's, I don't know, is it the injuries? Is it just the shots not falling? But she's still Paige. I mean, I trust her. You saw a lot of times when she's making shots, like it was a neutral site. It was a non-neutral site. It was an away game. It just didn't work out for her. But touching on what Bella said about like the football aspect, like yeah, when you play Navy, you got that triple option. It's hard to cover. I'm glad you said football because it reminded me as like a D lineman of bringing in fresh legs, and you bring in fresh bodies that can shoot that aren't winded that just put them up. I think that one girl was like 0 for 5 before she made that last 3.
Yeah, Bella, do you think there's a regression, or do you think I listen, I'm not making excuses, but as someone that has gotten older and slower, it's when I've talked to doctors about the ACL stuff and the different injuries that happen, it's very similar to just a person that is at the age of 20 versus the age of 43. Like you're just not going to be as quick. And when you have those multiple surgeries, whether it's Azzi, whether it's Paige, the explosiveness just isn't where it used to be. She's still great, but do you see that kind of decline, and do you feel like this is an accurate statement?
Okay, so I think the one thing too about Paige that everyone loves to look at points, but we also have to look at. I mean, she had 8 assists tonight. Like that's a stat that you have to look at. That like she's getting things done in other aspects that we just don't highlight or really look at too much. I mean, I get it. She's a player that's supposed to go out and average, should be scoring at least 20 points in a game like this. But she still was able to distribute the ball really well, which is something that I think is just as important. Now, the other thing that I don't think she's necessarily regressed as a player, but for me, I don't think she's as clutch as she used to be. I don't trust her in a big moment. Like today, if you said, okay, who do I want to shoot the ball? Say we were down, 2 and we needed to either tie or we were down 1 and we need a bucket. I just don't feel like, and a comment coming in right now, she's doubting herself. I agree. I don't think I trust her, and I don't know if she trusts herself to be the person with the ball in her hands with the game on the line. At this point in time, I don't know if I trust anybody because, you had Sarah Strong in the USC game. I get she's a freshman, and, she shouldn't be the person that ends up with the ball in her hand. She shouldn't have to be, but she, probably down the stretch if we need her, she will be. But, yeah, I don't think I trust anybody. I think we talked about, the men's game when they suffered the loss to, was it Villanova or
Yeah.
Creighton? I think it was Villanova. I think that it's the same thing is we didn't know who we wanted to score the last shot because we didn't have anybody. I think that's the same thing right now. I don't think we have anybody, and I think, yeah, Paige has regressed in that aspect. We don't have her to give us that clutch factor.
I'm going to answer this question. I wanted to put it up there so I didn't forget, because then they just go away if they scroll away. Do I think Gino has lost it? I don't think he's lost it. I think I don't think that's a fair question. The guy is 72 years old or 70 years old, something like that. I think he's gotten more apathetic. I think that's a fair assessment. I think there's a part of him, as is true with anybody that has done something for 40 years, where you still love it, but it's not the same. Like, the way college basketball is today is not the same. It's just not the same as it was when he first started. It's not the same in the women's game. It's not the same in the men's game. I'm not talking about these. And I'm not going to go crazy. Joey see me crazy on the show. Bella, you have too. But I will say, it's not like the losers who say, well, NIL is ruining sports. No, it's people that blame NIL that kind of use it as a crutch. It's not about NIL. It is truly just about players today are different than they were 20 years ago. Like, if you ask Rebecca Lobo and Jen Rosati and Maria Conlin, who probably had to, scrape a few bucks together to kind of, go out on a Friday night, there's a little more urgency there. So do I think that Gino probably wants that day to be there again? Like, sure. But it's also enriched him. You know what I mean? Like, so it's all kind of like one hand washes the other. As the game has grown, so has his salary, so has his, his clout, his ability to change influence the game. I think he's still a great coach. He still gets good players. I think they lack in athleticism. That's the bottom line. I think when they play big time teams, there's an athleticism gap, and it's not about just the precision game that it used to be, where you're a technician, you can post up and your footwork's great, and the Kara Walters and the Swin Cashes of the world. Like, that's just not the way the women's game is played anymore. Now you have Tennessee had, I think, 7 players I would say are more athletic than us. 7, like half their team is more athletic than us. And when you play that style, it over time it shows. So that's my answer to that.
Mark, I just wanted to say too, to kind of go off your point too. You talk about Paige getting older and obviously slowing down. The same thing with Gino. Like, you get older and it's not necessarily you lose your touch, but like your drive and your just will to win sometimes just decreases a little bit. And that's not to say that he's not, mentally sharp, but I just
I think it's mentally.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not mentally. It's just, I think it's just, he's the winningest coach in all of college basketball. He just set that record this past November. Like, he is going to go down as the greatest coach in college basketball. But all good things have to come to an end. And I already used a football reference. Same thing with Bill Belichick. People were saying, all of a sudden, Bill's not the same. Okay, he got older. And the same thing with football. The game of football changed tremendously, right? Tom Brady was a pocket passer, and he had him for 20-plus years. And now the game is different. You have Lamar Jackson. You have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. They can move and create plays. And so the game grows, and sometimes somebody like Gino just stays a little complacent. So we'll see what happens. I think we'll have to see what happens next year. And I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for Gino. I'm pretty sure he's signed, but
yeah, he's signed for 4 years.
Yeah, I don't know.
Joey, what do you think about this? Because I would say, like, for example, the thing that catches me is, like, he has accomplished everything that you can accomplish in this game. But do you think there's enough fight left? Like, because I think that's what the chat is asking, and I'm trying to like follow what they're saying, not just go on our own thing. So do you think Gino is going to rebound from this and take this team like he always does to the Final Four?
I mean, yes. I think we're always going to be that team that could punch our ticket to the Final Four. We have the players and just going that route. But touching on like the athleticism part, the women's team isn't getting those number one player in the country every year like they used to be, and that's a big difference too. And you've seen it, and with even the insurgence of South Carolina coming up, you've seen it. They're not getting the influx of talent and the athleticism, and it's kind of spread around more. Speaking of that, even Tennessee has I think a top class coming in next year.
Yep,
which is even scarier for them. But it's just the college game is a lot different than the men's game too. You have those players, they stay 4 years. Well, very, very rarely do they leave 3. So it's like when you pick a recruit, you're locked in. And we're not getting the back-to-back number 1 players in the country in a lot of the recruiting classes. So that's what we're seeing. And also too, yes, Azzi Fudd and Paige both have had significant knee injuries. And they're different players. But I mean, I would trust either one of them with the ball taking the last shot. So
well, I need to address something because when people talk about this in the chat, like, everyone's like, well, we have 3 number 1 picks. We 3 have number 1, overall recruits with Sarah, with Azzi, and Paige. Yeah. From Sarah was last year.
Yep.
Paige was 2020 or 2019, and Azzi was 2020. So we're in 2025, folks. It's been a long time since they've had multiple back-to-back recruiting classes. And by the way, unless Agat McCord comes, and it doesn't look like she is, we're not going to have an All-American coming next year either. So what this should tell UConn fans on the women's side is either Gino needs to go other places, like we talked about in a couple weeks ago, where we talked about the international players he's bringing in, who we think are very good and are super underrated, or they need to figure out other things, because you can win with shooting over athleticism. You really can, but you got to make shots. Like you can even our own Dan Hurley on the men's side has said, I will sacrifice a little athleticism for guys who can put the ball in the hole. I know Gino feels the exact same way. Both those guys are pretty successful. So I'm going to trust their judgment versus Adam in the chat. I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's just me personally. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, this is another great point. Where was Allie? If Ashlynn is not shooting, this is where you can give Gino as much criticism as anybody. When things aren't going well, bro, give someone a shot. Like, what's she going to do differently that Ashlynn Shade didn't do tonight?
I mean, there's got to be something that he's seeing in practice, because it's usually for the last, as of late, it's been Shelly gets the first freshman off the bench, and like you said, Allie's lucky to get in. I don't know. I kind of agree with you on that. I mean, like, how much worse could it go? I love Ashlynn Shade. I think besides Azzi Fudd, she's probably the nicest player on that team. But listen, you got to make shots. Like you said, you got to put the ball in the hole. I also think that the thing with Gino is he looks like, I don't want to say he's stubborn, but I think he is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like to talk bad about Gino. Fellow Italian, I love Gino Auriemma with every bone in my body. He's given me so much joy as a kid growing up as a female. Playing basketball. Gino Auriemma has given put so many great, incredible, I don't want to say put women on the map, but he's paved a really, really great path for a lot of these incredible basketball players and incredible coaches, and him and himself, he's done a great job. But I think he's just, I don't know, maybe he just doesn't, like, sometimes he just doesn't get along with certain players, or he nitpicks certain players, parts of certain players' games, and he feels that they don't have the edge or the abilities to go in. But I think the one thing Allie's Bell lacks is defense. So that's the only thing that I could have really, really seen from her, is maybe he just didn't feel like defensively they were gonna match up well, and if they put Allie in. But I think they needed something on offense. I mean, they were, I think, 5 for 20 from 3-point. I mean, they shot 25%. So I don't think it could have gotten much worse.
All right, last thing, and then we're gonna get out of here because your boy needs to catch a plane tomorrow and see you two beautiful people at some point in the afternoon for the men's game and some pregame stuff and everything that goes with it. So also, this chat is not driving me crazy. It's making me laugh. Like, I want to read you guys some of the chats are hysterical. Like, we have people saying, do you guys see Paige going 1? Please comment on the lack of post play. One of my favorite ones was Jay Ross is my boy, or Ross J. He was like, Jimmy Page, have you been watching UConn's women's basketball since the 90s? And he's right. They set the standard of play, and the game has improved significantly. And that's great for college basketball. I said that on the show the other day. Like, look, if Tennessee wins this game, it's probably good for women's basketball. Everyone relax. Like, UConn is still going to be a 2 or a 3 seed going into the tournament. They still have a great chance to make the Final Four. No one's invincible. I think South Carolina game is going to be another good litmus test. if they play like they did against Tennessee, South Carolina is going to rip their doors off, and they're going to beat them by 20. And then people are going to be still talking about how this team is soft and blah, 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 blah. Bottom line is they need to play better, and they need to make open shots. And there's nothing that teaches a team like failure. So we talked about this, Bella, on our show, where they could lose this game against Tennessee. If they win against South Carolina, all will be right in the world. So do you think going into this South Carolina team, or no, that's not even the question I was going to ask. They're playing the Big East. I couldn't help but think all the people that were pissed off at me for breaking the Big 12 story a couple days before, I guess it was supposed to be broken. And, how I've talked about how if they played in the Big 12, the women's team would be the first program that would benefit from the competition upgrade. I can't help but ask this question. If they're in the Big 12, do they come into this game more battle tested playing against Tennessee? Anybody can answer.
Joey, you want to grab that one first, and then I'll go off you?
You're muted, brother. I got you. Go ahead. Just kidding.
I muted myself again. I would say yes, honestly, because I would say UConn's always been UConn. They play. I like them play. They play the good teams. They play that. But I mean, we know we're going to win the Big East. It's never been in doubt that we're not going to win the Big East, and we're going to get a home game, stuff like that. So
the Big East is weak. As weak as all get out. Bella, this is clearly a yes, right?
Yeah, I do agree with that. But you know what I'll say too is, though, I think the time this game comes in this season too is tough. Like Gino said, playing these games can kind of get you out of rhythm. I think if we played it like earlier in January, after we had had a tougher December with USC and Notre Dame, maybe things would have went different with obviously everybody healthy. I mean, that obviously that wouldn't have happened, but I think with everybody at full strength, I don't know. I think, yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I think playing them in the Big 12 would have been bigger. This
is what I want to say, because I feel like some people in the chat really need this to be spelled out for them. When you play a tougher schedule, you're more prepared for games like this. When you play a bunch of, like, essentially it's like, I'll give you an example. Pickleball is all the rage right now, right? If you're a really good pickleball player and I gave you a tennis racket and then you had to go play on a big court, you'd get your ass kicked because you don't know what you're doing. And it would take you probably 20 minutes just to get acclimated, if not an hour. So when you don't play in an arena with 20,000 screaming fans, you go to Villanova and there's 1,200 people there. Woo! Like, you know what I mean? Like, you go to St. John's and there's, 14 people there wanting to see Paige and get her autograph. You're not as mentally tough as you need to be going into this game. It's as simple as that. The Big East didn't cause them to lose this game. The Big East is a symptom of them not playing tough competition. And that's what I'm trying to say. And if you don't understand that, then I'm sorry that you don't understand basic kind of comprehension. That's not my problem. It's a really simple algorithm.
Honestly, when's the last time we've lost the Big East conference game? I can't imagine.
It was years ago when Paige was hurt, right?
I think it was January. They lost to Villanova in January of 22. I can search that up.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, guys. Like, that's the thing. So, yeah. Dude, my man right here. Look at this. What up, Ross J? Throwing us a 50 spot on the super chats. What up, dude? Appreciate you. That'll go into the travel fund. Appreciate that. Listen, I'm done for the night. Like, I love you guys. There's really nothing else to say. UConn did not play well. They played okay, and they lost by 4 on the road to a team that probably should have lost this game, but they were tougher than us mentally, and they exerted much more energy in the fact that they pressed all game, and UConn lost. I mean, what else would you like us to say? I mean, Bella, you want to close us out?
I think at the end of the day, you know what? The UConn's been on top for a while, and it's about time now. I think we're fully considered underdogs in this tournament. I don't think anyone's going to expect us, probably, especially if we lose pretty handily to South Carolina. I don't think anyone will really expect us to punch a ticket to the Final Four. I know, Joey, you were kind of saying that people are still going to expect it. I don't know. I think if we lose, people are going to forget about UConn. And you know what I got to say, though, is that's okay. At the end of the day, March is where the real basketball gets played. And yeah, it was a sloppy one tonight. And yeah, things didn't go our way. But if we had come out with a win and had a lot of good things to say, it could have been an overreaction because it could have given us a false sense of hope. Now we lost. We kind of got our teeth kicked in a little bit. And this has got to only be motivation. And that's what you got to look at it as. Okay, take your medicine and let's go play South Carolina tough, regardless of what happens. Let's accept our fate and let's create our own destiny in March, because that's what it comes down to. Any given night, you know what they say, any given Sunday, for us, it's any given game, whether it's the Sweet 16, whether it's the Elite 8. You just got to fight. And yeah, tonight wasn't pretty, but you got to get better. And so at this point, bet against us. I'm going to say it, bet against us. I hated what we showed tonight, but listen, coming, beginning in April, that first week of April, if we're the ones holding up the trophy, I wouldn't say I'd be shocked. So I think there's still a lot of basketball to play. So, as much as this one sucks, take it on the chin. Let's keep it rolling for this season. Let's not let it bring us down too much.
Joey, I'll see you tomorrow.
I will see you tomorrow. Hey, like what UConn football said, Huskies versus everybody.
That's right.
Hey,
Have
I'll take this loss this month so we can win in April.
Yeah,
For sure.
Go
Huskies. I'll see everyone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Go on.